Hello, everyone. It's Ms. De Silva. Thank you for joining me for another video. And Happy New Year. Happy 2021. I'm really excited to have another year as your school counselor. Today we're going to be gearing up for No Name Calling Week. Some of you might remember that we discussed and recognized No Name Calling Week last year. Something that we did was create those flowers for the Garden of Kindness. And we talked about kind words or names that you can use with others rather than the opposite. But that's still a couple weeks away. So we're just going to review some terms and some things that we've talked about in the past, like empathy and compassion. Now, empathy is something I've talked to you about quite a lot, but a lot of the time people forget what it means. And that's okay. That's why I have to make sure I spend time reviewing that with you. So mostly what we're going to do today is watch a video. And now that you're in 6th grade, not only are you going to learn about empathy, but a little bit more about different types of empathy. So I hope you enjoy and I hope you learned something.
My friend Emma is going through a really hard time. Her parents are getting a divorce, and she's so upset she can barely concentrate in class. I can tell she feels sad and alone, but I don't really know how to respond. Like, should I encourage her to stay positive? Or maybe tell her about something I'm struggling with too? I want to be there for her, so I looked up how to support a friend through tough situations. A lot of articles talked about empathy. I'd heard about having empathy before, but I wasn't really sure what it meant.
So I want you to think right now, what do you already know about empathy? Hopefully that's something you can share with your class. I know it's something I've talked to you about before, but I'm not going to tell you right now because I want to see if you'll share what you already know about empathy. All right, let's keep watching. If you guys are going to discuss that more, then you can pause.
First, I wondered, what exactly is empathy? Basically, empathy is being sensitive to other people's emotions, being able to feel how they're feeling. But I've never experienced the situation Emma's in. My parents aren't divorced. Can I still empathize with her? Being empathetic doesn't mean you've experienced the exact same thing as the other person. We all have a unique perspective on life. An important part of empathy is being able to recognize another person's perspective, even though it's different from yours. That's called cognitive empathy. Another part of empathy is emotional empathy. Feeling the other person's emotions as if they're your own. You're letting them know that they're not alone.
So who knows the answer? Which type of empathy is observing and acknowledging another person's perspective? Is it cognitive, emotional, compassionate, or educated? Cognitive.
Okay, so empathy sounds a lot like sympathy. Are they the same thing? Empathy is often used interchangeably with sympathy, but they're really not the same thing. Sympathy is more mental. It's about seeing someone's emotion versus feeling it in yourself. There's some distance in that, you know? It's like saying, sorry you're sad, instead of, I'm here with you right now.
So we actually tend to hear the word sympathy a lot more often than we hear the word empathy. So how did that, hopefully that video described the difference a little bit more for you, but I want you to think about how sympathy is different from empathy. I I really like how they pointed out where you can easily just see someone that's sad and just be like, man, that sucks. But actually being supportive to another person that's feeling a certain way, that's going more in the direction of empathy.
I tried to picture how I might show empathy to Emma, but it felt kind of hard. Like, it's uncomfortable to make yourself feel sad and scared. I guess that's normal. Empathy makes you vulnerable because you have to dig deep into your own experience to remember a time when you felt the same way. But it's how we really connect with other people. So, I don't know what it's like to have my parents get divorced, but I do know what it's like to feel sad and lonely. My best friend moved away right before middle school, and I felt like my world had exploded into a million pieces. Remembering that feeling helps me feel closer to what Em's going through right now.
So what do you think? Is feeling empathy difficult or uncomfortable? Does it have to be difficult or uncomfortable? They say true. Sometimes, yeah, going that far, really thinking about how another person's feeling can be a little bit uncomfortable. Usually, I think that's because maybe we don't know what to do or we don't feel like we're doing the right thing. But the biggest thing is just showing your support for another person. And think about if you were in their situation, what would you want someone to do? That's the best way to show empathy.
Okay, now that I've learned a little more about empathy, how can I show empathy to Emma? Communicating your empathy with another person is called compassionate empathy. My first instinct was to tell her that everything will work out in the end, and she's lucky she still has two loving parents. But then I imagined how I might feel hearing that. I'd feel ignored, like my feelings aren't important. And it turns out fake positivity can be worse than saying nothing at all. It's usually better to just listen, make eye contact, and not interrupt. It's human nature to try to fix problems, but a lot of the time, people just want someone to listen to them. So I'm still not sure I'm going to think of the perfect thing to say to Emma, or if I'll even be able to help her feel better. But I do know that I can show her some empathy, and hopefully she'll know I'm here for her.
All right, so as we end the video, this last question is, think of a situation a friend or a family member is going through. What is one way you can show empathy to them? A lot of us are going through challenging experiences right now for lots of different reasons. So now is a really good time for us to think about what other people might be going through. The experience of staying home and having to work from home for adults that you know, or having to study from home is really difficult for some people. And others might be handling it fine. It really depends on the person. Or maybe you have an adult in your home that has to leave the home to go to work. And that's really stressful for them because of how careful we have to be now and how stressful it can be thinking that we might get sick. Or maybe you even know someone that's gotten sick. So these are all things we can think about of what other people are struggling with right now. And the more that we show empathy to others, the more that people will show it to us. Think about how you feel when people reach out to you and ask how you're doing and how you're feeling, and what they might be able to do to help. And think about how important and helpful that would be for you to do to others. All right, well, I hope that you learned something. I hope that we were able to review, especially about empathy, right? That I've discussed many times in my lessons with you, but I know that we always need refreshers. So I think it's a really good way for us to start the new year in thinking about how we treat others and how that makes us feel about ourselves. And it helps us have better relationships with the people in our life. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.